Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome to Family Soul Evening. So excited to see so many beautiful faces that come each week. Some are new faces, and you're in for such a special, special treat tonight. You're in for, right now, tonight we get to really talk about relationships and some really, really concrete ways that you can improve your relationship, whether it's for you or with others. But I believe that the greatest joy we have by being here on this earthly plane is through our relationships. Would you all agree? By raise of hands, would you say relationships are really what make us want to wake up in the morning, to connect to ourselves, to connect to others? And so tonight is a really, really special night. But before we start, this is one of my favorite decks. Does anybody have this deck? Is this something that you guys are familiar with? If you haven't, it's really a great one. It's called the Kuan Yin deck. And they're rather long in terms of reading the whole thing, but I did pull this card, and I'm just going to give you just a little brief introduction. It's number 39, Grandmother Dragonfly Holds Wisdom. You see that? What a beautiful card. Okay, I'm going to just tell you briefly what it is, and maybe it'll apply to one or more of you. I take delight in life, particularly life that is unexpected, where new life springs from old, and that which seems to have ended is resurrected into new form. I am bringing you a resurrection now. That which may seem to have ended will yet yield something of value, something of benefit for your life journey and your divine success. Keep your heart open and remain in the present moment so you can enjoy the gifts that will soon be resting in the palms of your hands. Anybody want to raise their hand if that applies a little bit to you? Yes, these things you're like, you can't make this up, right? You can't make how synchronistic so many things are. And where new life springs from old, some of the old stories, the old things that have happened, there's purpose in everything. Everything happens for you, not against you. Everything is purposeful. Every learning experience helps you unfold and come back to that wholeness which is within. And so I was really excited to get that card. All right. I am going to, if you haven't already done so, please mute your selves unless you're asking a question or you want to clarify some things with beautiful Laurel tonight. I'm going to be concentrating. I'm going to go ahead and just say a couple of things, and then we'll go ahead and turn the time over to lovely Laurel, who is just one of my favorite instructors and mentors. You're just gonna totally enjoy tonight. I just solidly believe that. Okay, so first of all, how many of you guys have seen the new website? How many of you been on yinonfire.com? It went live on December 1st. Have any of you gone to see it? Yes? You can put like little memes, raise your hand, celebrate. Yes, yes. It's so good. If you have not, please, I'm going to put it in the chat. Go to yinonfire.com. It's a brand new website. I want to take the time to thank Shane Dieter for doing such a magical job. That was synchronistic in itself. I asked for a local person to be working on Yin on Fire. I was hoping and put it out to the universe that it would be someone that had some sort of familiarity with what we were creating with Yin on Fire. And not only did I get in touch with Shane, who I didn't know anything about him when I first talked to him. I didn't even, sorry, I'm reading two things. I told you I cannot multitask at all. I'm reading the chat and I'm like, wait a second, I can't think. Come to find out that not only was he Yin on Fire, but his little boy, Stellar, was the one in the human mandala who saw that beautiful human mandala on Saturday night where Stellar was in the middle and he was receiving that beautiful healing energy in the middle of that human mandala. So that's actually who was standing in the center Shane is his father, and he put together the Yin on Fire website. And you can see that there was a connection. You can see the love that was placed into that beautiful website. Go see it, check it out. There's a whole bunch of photos. Go see if your photo's there, share away if you want. And we have that holiday special right now, the promotion, where you can get a full 4-day, 3-night ticket for Yin on Fire for $197. Now, if you wait until January, it goes up to $222 and it will never go back down. So we're going to announce in the next week some really great musical acts, big ones that all of you are going to be really excited about. All right. So I am just going to, oh, and by the way, so I've got to give also credit to my son, Luke. If you look at the reels or the videos or anything that has video on it, my son is in school. He's been doing that and he's getting out of school. So if anybody has any video needs in their business, he's about ready to be launched into the world. So you can go check that out. And I know a lot of you guys have a need for video and editing and things like that, reels and stuff. All right, we're going to get to the heart of this, what you've been waiting for, which is I'm going to introduce one of my favorite people in the whole world. And I hope I don't cry because she has made such a significant impact in my life. She has made such a significant impact in so many lives surrounding me. Everybody that she teaches and touches, I'm telling you, she makes an impact on their life with the knowledge, the tools, the understanding. And we actually call her the Divine Feminine Enchantress, Tantra and Relationship Coach and Speaker. She's an incredible speaker. In fact, I met her at a speaking competition in which she won #1, the first place trophy. And ever since then, we've become very, very close friends. She's been one of my own personal mentors and teachers. I've quoted her 3 times in my own personal book. So you can see that I give a lot of credit to this woman. She talks about body, sex, and money. How many of you want to hear more about sex, money, and bodies? I know I do. And she actually developed a thing called body mapping. I'm going to let her explain what that is, but she's going to focus on the parts that apply to our relationships tonight and to improve your relationship with both you and everybody around you. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to beautiful Laurel Huston. Make sure that you listen, have something to write and take notes because you are not going to want to miss even a second. Go ahead, Laurel.
Thank you.
Ooh, what happened? Did we mute you accidentally?
I think I'm back now. Am I back now?
All right.
Okay.
Start again. Apparently we're supposed to start. Take two.
So really quick, actually go into participants and click mute all, and then I'll unmute and come back on.
Okay. Oh, look at you, you little smarty. Okay.
Okay. I think we still have a couple people. Perfect. Okay. Yay. Thank you so much, Wendy. Let me know. Can you guys hear me okay with all the muting and unmuting? Can I get a thumbs up? Perfect. All right. I am, like she said, my name is Laurel Huston, and this is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about, mostly because for almost 20 years, I was a stylist in a salon. And when you're in beauty school, one of the first things they tell you is don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, don't talk about sex, don't talk about money. So as soon as I left that industry, what did I want to talk about? Body, sex, and money. And it's also the 3 things that everyone wants more of. We all want a healthier relationship with these 3 things, but most of us have programming that says you're not allowed to talk about such things. You're not allowed to care about such things. And so when I very first started presenting and working, I was very much a mindset coach, and I love mindset work. But how many of you have ever heard the expression, if you want to heal, you have to feel? Have you guys heard that before? Okay. So that is somatics, and it's about sensation. And as much as I love our mind and as much credit as the mind is given, one of the reasons why so many people think that the mind is so strong and why it's the strongest part between the mind, the body, and the spirit is because it's the part of you that we spend the most time paying attention to. And so your mind is not actually the strongest part of you as a whole. And the body is, because the body is full of messages when we pay attention to sensation. When we are trying to connect with our spirit speaks to us through sensations in the body. When the head gets involved is actually when things kind of get messed up. So a lot of times when I speak, my main goal is to get people to reconnect with their relationship with their body. As I have been doing this for not quite 20 years, especially as I've worked with women, as I have helped people learn and reconnect with their bodies, with their sensations, with their emotions, they always hit a wall, men and women. And that wall is usually around sex and intimacy. And so for many people, this is the topic, this is the issue, this is the thing that you're doing really, really well in your healing journey. And then you get to this part. And that's when you realize that most of your core wounds stem from a lack of intimacy. And intimacy is not just what's happening in the bedroom. Intimacy starts outside the bedroom. So we're going to dive into that tonight. And then, like Wendy said, we are going to talk about a small piece of something called body mapping, because all of your parts and pieces, everything from the shape and color of your eye, the size of your hands, your toenails. I think somebody did toe reading. So if you take toe reading and then extend it to the entire body, inside and out, that's body mapping. And we're not going to obviously have time to do the whole body, but we are going to talk about all of the parts that deal with relationships and intimacy, how to know what your body is telling you when messages come forward, and how those messages show up. So I am so full of useless information and I tend to squirrel. So I did make a PowerPoint because otherwise I won't stay on track. So let me know if you guys can see. Perfect. This way I won't get too off the side. Wendy's laughing because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So intimacy mapping, what your body wants you to know about your relationships. What we're going to talk about tonight, understanding the messages from your body, increase your ability to receive pleasure. How many of you want more pleasure? You think that you want more intimacy, but really one of the things you're wanting is to have pleasure during those experiences. This is something that a lot of people don't recognize until they start their healing journey. And then they're like, oh, it's not the lack of opportunity that I'm sad about. It's the lack of depth during the experience that I'm sad about. And then we're also going to stop the stories that are hurting your relationships. Okay, this is the stuff about me. I've been married for 15 years. I have 3 kids. I have 2 degrees. I'm a trauma aware mentor certified coach, Tantra coach, and breathwork facilitator, and then the creator of body mapping. Okay, now we get to the stuff that you actually care about. So the first one, I already mentioned this. A person is a mind, a body, and a spirit, or a soul, energy, whatever word fits you. Don't get caught up on my words. When you want to heal a person, you cannot just focus on one of those 3 parts. When you do, we start to have a big imbalance in our healing, and we start to give one power over the others. Usually what has happened in the past is we have been introduced to the personal development world, and that is a beautiful world, and I'm so grateful for it. But one of the things that happens is that as we are introduced into this world, one of the first concepts that most of us are introduced to is mindset coaching, which is beautiful. You need to understand how the mind works. But in doing mindset, sometimes we forget to listen and tap back into our body. And the hard part about that is that the body is where trauma is actually housed. This is where we hold on to the trauma. And when we are not listening to our body, this is where dis-ease shows up, is in the body. So one of the first things that I like to teach people is that, whoops, wrong way, is that healing is not about learning how to deal with trauma. Healing is about learning how to feel safe and loved again. Let me repeat that. Healing is not about learning how to deal with trauma. Folks, you already know how to deal with trauma. Whether your coping mechanisms are the best that they could be or not is a different story, but you already know how to deal with trauma. We numb, we distract, we become aware. You know how to deal with trauma, especially in your nervous system. When sensation comes up, you understand what those sensations are, or maybe not because you're numbing them. But one of the biggest ways to know that you have started to heal is when you feel safe, when you're feeling safe. Let me repeat that, because usually when I say it, people go, what? You know that you're healing when you feel safe, feeling safe. So everybody just check in with their body right now. Don't try to shift or change anything. But when I talk about feeling safe, I'm not talking about the concept or the story that you have in your head about I'm safe. What does your body actually feel like? Places to check in. Is your jaw clenched or relaxed? Drop your jaw. Are your shoulders tense? Are they up in your ears? Drop your shoulders. Unclench your butt. People don't realize how often throughout and I always love watching this on Zoom because everybody starts up here and then I say, unclench your butt, and you watch everybody go down an inch because they did. Okay. So these are places that when I say, okay, when you relax your jaw and you relax your shoulders and you relax your butt, did you notice that your brain just went, wait, are we okay being relaxed right now? Or is your brain trying to make you aware of unseen stressors? So when I say trauma is not about learning, or healing is not about learning how to deal with trauma, when I say healing is learning about how to feel safe and loved again. Actually feel it, not just think about it. When your body goes into a relaxed state, how long do you allow yourself to stay there before you start to worry if there's something else you should be doing? That's what healing is. And what this has to do with intimacy is that for many people, male and female, the thing that is stopping you from allowing pleasure, mass amounts of pleasure, is this. When your body feels good and relaxed and full of pleasure and bliss, how long will you allow yourself to stay in it before you decide you can't? So when we are talking about intimacy, a lot of people try to change mindset. I need you to start changing heart and body set, because that is where the trauma actually is. So healing is not about learning how to deal with trauma. Healing is about learning how to feel safe and loved. One of my degrees is in psychology, and the people who know me well know I'm obsessed with Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, because there's so many different ways to teach and explain this to people. So the short version of Maslow's hierarchy is that he studied the way that our brains process information, and more importantly, how it prioritizes it. And one of the things that he discovered is there is a hierarchy to what our brain cares about first. So don't overthink these questions when I ask them. But when you think about your needs and what level they're being met at, some things to consider. The very first thing that your brain wants to know you have access to are the things that meet your physical need: food, water, shelter, temperature regulation. So temperature regulation could be anything from a shelter to a sweater to a fan. Breathing. I'm a breath facilitator, and honestly, people do so many things to try to up-level their lives with their food, with their routine, with their exercise, but they forget about breathing and they hold their breath throughout the day, and they don't realize that that is actually, when we hold our breath, especially when we breathe in and we hold, that tells our brain to brace for pain. How many of you have older brothers? I had 2. So as a child, I learned very quickly that if someone quickly raised their arm, you were going to get punched in yours. So as a little sister, I learned, and my body learned, when I go to get ready for pain. That is how most humans are. So unless you're in an already relaxed state, taking a deep breath in actually tells our brain to brace for pain, get ready for it. But when we are in a place of bliss, when we're in a place of relaxation, we exhale. Have you ever been next to someone and all of a sudden they just sigh? They've gone into a state of relaxation. So when you are looking at your physical needs, once your brain says, all right, we have food, we have shelter, we have water, we're concentrating on our breathing, we have hygiene, then your brain cares about safety. Safety are things like predictability, rules, regulations, order, security, trust. Trust is part of safety. Above trust, where we have belonging, connection, intimacy. Without safety, you can have sex to reproduce, but you cannot have a sense of belonging inside a relationship without having trust, without having safety. Lots of people have lots of sex. Very few people engage in intimacy. And the thing that is stopping that is a lack of safety. Now, usually when I say this, lots of very protective men who are doing a great job protecting and providing physical needs for their family get a little bit defensive. Emotional safety is critical for a woman to feel safe. It is absolutely necessary. Oh, I've got a little bit of feedback. So when you are looking to create intimacy in your relationships, if you are not working on a sense of security, of trust, of building that safety in a relationship, this is what's preventing intimacy from coming. Keep in mind, there are more places than physical safety that need to be looked into, and we're going to get into some of those. Okay, then you have esteem and self-actualization, which that's another workshop. But the short version of those is this is actually important for this. When we have a sense of belonging, when we have intimacy and connection, it's easier for us to feel worthy of our successes and to feel like we have fulfilled our purpose. For those of you who have ever heard me talk about money, one of the things that I love to teach is that the purpose of money is to help you find your purpose. So if you do not understand your purpose and you don't feel like you are allowed to have those mass successes, it comes down to feeling disconnected. It comes down to feeling unsafe, or maybe one of your needs, physical needs, are not met. So that's the other reason why I bring this up. When you are trying to heal a relationship, if the part of the relationship that is going wonky, so if you're like, okay, we are lacking intimacy, you don't work on creating more intimacy. You go the level below it because that's the foundation that needs to be worked on. So if it's really hard in your relationship to have physical needs met, safety and intimacy and high levels of success won't come without struggle. As soon as you meet those physical needs and then the safety needs, the top three of the pyramid almost happen naturally and with great ease. Safety is a huge part of what's happening here. So one of the things to create safety is that many of us have programs, and I'm not going to call them faulty beliefs because not all of us believe what we were programmed. In fact, we very much don't believe it. We just don't know how to get rid of the program. So we're going to redefine some of your programs. The first one is the word arousal. This is a place where a lot of people will hear this word and instantly think of only sexual arousal. But arousal is a heightened level of awareness. And so arousal is actually the key to many spiritual gifts. Because the higher level of arousal you will allow yourself to be in, it's the higher level of awareness. Sensuality is your use of the senses. If you want to know what the difference between sexy and sensual, our senses involved: taste, touch, smell. Have you ever heard women talk about what makes a man so sexy? Good cologne. Like if a man walks in with a good smelling cologne, everyone's like, because it's sensual. It's that higher level that brings a new level of awareness and heightened arousal. When we allow ourselves to be aroused in many different ways, this is one of the things that opens us up to spiritual gifts. As an example of this, everybody just take a deep breath through your nose, specifically through your nose. Breathe out. Okay, now we're going to do that again, but this time, smell. Make a conscious effort to smell what's in the room. That next consciousness, that higher level of awareness, was arousal. The smells in the room did not change. You just became aware of them. And I have essential oil behind me, so I was like, oh, it smells like a pine tree. I'm trying to make it feel Christmassy. Okay, so when you allow yourself to waken up your senses, what's the temperature of the room you're in right now? Does it feel comfortable on your skin? Did the heater just come on? Do you feel hot air? Were you even aware of it before I asked you? This is sensuality, the use of your senses. Even if you don't have food in your mouth right now, what does your mouth taste like right now? It has a flavor, I promise. And some of you are like, oh man, I need gum. I need a mint. Why did you bring that to my awareness? And I did it for a specific reason. When we become aware of a sense that we have shame or guilt around, we will shut ourselves off from that sensation. So if you are like, oh, I don't like the flavor or the taste in my mouth right now, that is what I mean by feel and heal. When you become aware of your senses, you have a heightened level of sensation, of feeling, of actual feeling in the body. When you don't like what you feel, when you don't like the sensation, we try to shut it down. Okay. The last one I invite you to reprogram would be the word desire. Desire is the Latin word for the Father, desire. When we have and connect with desire, we are actually connecting to Source, to God, and creating alignment. When you follow your heart's desire, you are literally following the will of our Creator. You are following inspiration. I get a lot of flack for this, and I'm going to say it anyway. Your third eye is not about inspiration or intuition. It's about discernment. Intuition is a body felt sense. This is why you feel it in your gut. This is why you feel it in your womb. This is why you feel intuition first in your body, and you feel it. You have the goosebumps. You have the hair stand up on the back of your neck. You feel this pulse to be closer or farther away from someone. That intuition first happens in the body, and then your head discerns the information. And the reason I bring this up is because so many of us have received information and have not allowed the sensation to guide us. And so we start having a negotiation in our mind between our brain and the higher level of awareness that was given to us. So when you allow yourself to follow your heart's desire, it is an actual feeling, not just a thought. Okay, the last thing before we get into the juicy stuff. And I probably should have said this beforehand, but you saw what the title of the class was. If you have, like, this is PG-13 or above, I guess. I'll try not to go R. So be mindful of who's around you for the next part. Okay. I probably should have started with that. Anyway, okay, so shame and guilt. Shame versus guilt. These are not the same emotion. When you think about shame, shame was introduced, for those of you who believe in the Bible, which I do, shame was introduced in the garden, and the only part of the body that Adam and Eve hid was their eternal identity. It was the part of them that is all about creation. The purpose of shame is to hide us from God. Guilt brings us back to Him. So shame tells us to hide. Guilt is a guide. And it is a guide back to love. So if you are feeling like you have to hide what you're doing, hide what you're saying, hide who you are, hide your desires, that is shame-based, not guilt-based. When you have guilt, you go, I should not have done that. And you change it instead of hide it. So this is important because sexual energy and creation energy are the same energy. When we have shame around sex, it creates shame around the fact that you were created through it. If you want to heal your I'm not enoughness, heal your relationship with sex. Creation energy and sexual energy are the same energy. So if you have shame around sex, sexuality, sensuality, this is one of the things that is stopping your manifestation in its tracks. Because sexual energy and creation energy are the same energy. So when you have shame around sex, you have shame around creation and creation energy. And that feeds into your I'm not enough. When you feel that in your body, feel right now, because I have yet to meet a human alive that is working through stuff that doesn't have this. If you were to ask your body, I'm going to make this really simple. Ask your body, what percentage of my pain, is tied to shame? What percentage of my pain is tied to shame? And you don't have to answer verbally or visually or anything, but for most people, it is above 50% of their pain is based in shame. And most of that shame stems from sexual or sensual energy, this creation energy. And then they try to manifest something and it goes wonky. So when you heal this, you heal many, many different parts of you. Why I teach this in conjunction with learning about bodies. When you shut a woman down sexually, you shut her off from God. When you shut a man down emotionally, you shut him off from God. Because both of those ways connect your mind with your body through sensation. So for men, if you can cut them off emotionally and cut them off from their emotional sensation, inspiration, intuition gets a little bit difficult because they don't trust their gut anymore. When you shut a woman down sexually, you shut her off from her entire body. Nothing about a body feels safe when you are shut down sexually. So if you can turn this back on, spiritual gifts, awareness, your connection to our Creator, all becomes beautifully easy. And that's what it's supposed to be. And when we allow these sensations to come back on, and as you heal, you will have new information through these sensations. And when people talk about you have to feel to heal, we decide in our head, well, if the more emotions I can list in my head, the more I'm feeling, right? No, feeling actually requires you to feel it in your body. So as you heal, you will have new information through these sensations that show up in your body. And the cool part about that is that sensation leads to transformation and manifestation. So for the rest of tonight, I want to teach you, one, how to recognize the sensations in your body and what the message that's coming up for them, and what this can do for your relationships. So think about a relationship that you have, and also keep in mind that a relationship can be a person, a place, or a thing. And I bring that up. I wasn't going to add this because it can be a really big squirrel, but I felt really impressed to share this. When we are doing forgiveness work, a relationship can be a person, a place, or a thing. And so if you're doing relationship work, forgiving a thing can also help you to heal. Forgiving a place. There was a city that I lived in that had one negative experience after another, and I had to forgive the whole city. I had a past client that lived out of the country and had some really horrific things. And by the time she got back, she was like, yeah, I had to forgive the whole country. So keep in mind, forgive work can be a person, a place, or a thing. So when I say things, this can be time, this can be money, this can be health. because health is actually a different relationship than your relationship with your body. If your relationship with your body is contingent upon whether or not it's healthy, it's one of the things that's keeping you unhealthy, just on a side note. So a person, that should be obvious, a place or a thing can all be a relationship. Your body has messages about your relationships. What message does your body have for you about this relationship, about any relationship? So in body mapping, if I break it down to the simplest part of it, every part of your body can be measured with another part of your body. So for example, if you take your thumb and you bend it from the center of your knuckle to the tip of your thumb is your eye. So when you measure, some of you will find that your body is not in proportion, that maybe your eye is smaller or larger than the tip of your thumb to the center of your knuckle. All that tells me is a different skill or ability you were born with, because none of us came with a manual, but we all came with a map, and that map is written on your body. Everything from the texture of your hair to the size of your hands, all of it conveys a message to help you remember your purpose, not find your purpose, but to remember your purpose. So as we go through these, I'll be keeping them a little bit broad, but know that there are measurements for all of these. I'm just not necessarily going to share all of the measurements because it's a 10-week course to go through all of body mapping. So we don't have that time. So I picked the things that directly go with intimacy and what are showing up for people right now. So your lips, your earlobes, your hands, and all your pink parts. And when I talk about pink parts, I'm sure you've noticed that skin has two options. It has flesh tone and it has pink parts like lips or nipples. And they are that color for a specific reason. And we'll get to that in just a minute when I actually get to that. But I didn't know how many, because this was family. So I was like, I'll keep it family oriented. So the cool thing about this though, is that your body is color coordinated and that the pink parts for women, if you start at the top and work your way down, it's far more successful than if you go the other direction. But for men, you start at the bottom and work your way up. All right, earlobes, what they represent and what messages they have for you. So, lips, excuse me, intimacy and communication. So when you think about someone's lips, symptoms that are creating sensation, and sensation is just a message. When you look at your lips and they start to give you a message, they're dry, they're cracked, you can go a couple different directions with this, and I honor and respect all of that. When you are looking at symptoms from the body, everyone knows that a virus causes a cold. How people choose to treat or understand the symptoms that show up with that cold are what I'm talking about here. So you can have the virus caused a cold, and I'm going to think happy thoughts and cure this with my thoughts, or you have the other extreme, which is take a pill, and everything in between. So when we are talking about things like dry lips, sure, it's cold on most of the Northern Hemisphere right now. So if you spend a lot of time outside, lips can be dry and cracked because you're in the cold. I recognize and acknowledge that. But what if it doesn't heal? What if it's not going away? What if you haven't been outside and your lips are getting dried and cracked? This is what I'm talking about with these symptoms. So if the symptom matches, then meaning you're like, well, yeah, I went skiing and of course I burned my cheeks and I have dried chapped lips. I spent 6 hours outside with wind shear. Okay, that matches. But if you've been inside all day and all of a sudden your lips are dried and cracked and they hurt, that is a message from your body. So when we are listening to the messages of our body, intimacy and communication show up first in the lips. So when your lips start to get dried and cracked, your body and your soul are trying to tell you that your relationships are starting to dry up and crack. This is why you can have really beautiful, healthy lips at home, and then you walk into work and they get dried and cracked. There are times when you can be feeling unheard, the communication part of it, and all of a sudden you'll start biting your lip. That sensation of feeling like you need to be punished for what you said. Have you ever spoken up and then gone, oh, I shouldn't have said that? And now you're hurting yourself for what you said. So the intimacy and communication shows up when you think about pink parts. The reason they're pink is because they're actually missing a portion, one of the layers of skin. So the blood is closer to the surface. I'm trying to keep this as simple explanation as possible. So when you're cold, you see that. And when you are in a physical state of arousal, they will get redder. So the more red lips are, the more in a state of passion the person is. This is why when someone is talking about something they're really excited about, their cheeks flush, their lips flush, because they're passionate about it. And so that blood flow, there's a physiological reason to this. All of the blood flow increases. When you're talking to someone, you'll notice if they're really engaged in the conversation, because the lip color will actually start to change. And when they disengage from the conversation, they'll get paler because the level of passion has decreased. Most people are aware of this when it's in the extreme version. When you're making out with someone, of course your lips are going to turn red. They're getting sucked on if it's done correctly. There are things that they start to change and shift. Wendy's dying. I will keep my comments to myself. When you are starting to have these different sensations, yes, there's physical sensations to them, but when it doesn't match, this is when you go, oh, because I have watched clients just give a quick to their spouse or to the person they love, and their lips will redden. I've also observed people who have kissed for a really long time and they should have really bright red lips just based on irritation alone, but there was no passion and there was no intimacy and there was no connection, and the lips have stayed the color of the skin. They've stayed pale or they're drier afterwards. So these are messages from your soul. These are messages from your body saying, meh, I don't really want to. Or they are messages from your body saying, yes, we want more. We're all in on this. Because sensation is information. So when the sensation increases, that is information. When the sensation decreases, that is just as valuable information. Okay, earlobes. Earlobes are actually about your ability to receive pleasure. They are also a place of arousal, because arousal is about awareness. When people are, this is more of a body language, but when people are unsure of the information they're hearing, they will tend to play with their earlobe. So a lot of people say, oh, when someone's lying, they play with their earlobe. It's more when people are trying to decipher the information that they're hearing, they'll start playing with their earlobes. It's also a sign of a state of arousal or wanting to receive pleasure. I get asked this question a lot, and since I just played with mine, I'll bring it up. Well, what about when people get piercings in their earlobe? Well, for many people at this point, it's cultural. But one of the reasons why it started and why it was traditionally only women who would pierce their ears, it was a form, it was, how do I want to say this without going too deep in a squirrel? It was a reminder that pleasure was supposed to be painful. It was to deter women from wanting to be in pleasure. And now it's turned into an adornment. And so think about why women wear earrings now. We want to draw attention to that intimate part of our body. Earlobes are one of the most forgotten erogenous zones on the body. But for most people, kissing behind the earlobe or slightly sucking on the earlobe is more arousing to them than anything else, because it engages so many senses. There's temperature involved, there's texture involved, There's so many sensations that are happening right there, and it's not a place on the body that gets touched very often. So the larger the earlobe, I think this is interesting because as the human body gets older, there are parts of our body that get bigger and stretch, and the earlobe is one of them because we are wanting more pleasure in life. The older we get, the less likely we are to be like, no, it's fine. I'll take what I can get. No, usually we're like, it's not worth it. If I'm not loving this, I'm not in on it. I want everything in it to feel good. Okay, hands. This is another place where people say, well, I work outside, so my hands get dry. Hands are about connection and creation. And so when you are working on something or with something, pay attention to whether or not your hands stay feeling nurtured. The front of your hand is actually the working side of your hand. Think about where you get calluses. The top of your hand is actually the intimate side of your hand. And think about that for a moment. When someone touches your hand, if they accidentally brush this side, we tend to be like, whatever. If someone were to just start rubbing the top of your hand, you would be like, what the? You just crossed a line. Because this is considered an intimate part of our body. It's a public intimate part of our body, and we have a lot of social cues around it. But this is a very sensual part of the body that often gets forgotten. So when people are working on sensuality and working on intimacy, one of the places, especially with couples, if you are looking to increase trust, one of the places I have them start is with a hand massage. Actually showing love to their partner's hands. Or if you are not someone in a relationship, do this for yourself. The muscle right here is always sore. Have you ever had someone just push on there and massage that and relax that? It's interesting because specifically this portion of the hand right here, this webbing, is the point of connection. When you, side squirrel, when you're shaking someone's hand, if you want to know how committed they are to the connection, the closer they are to touching right there or allowing those places to touch, the more connected or committed they are to the relationship. Think about when you're at a wedding and the bridesmaids are giving you like the dead fish handshake. They have no interest in the relationship. Versus the people that are all in, when they go to shake your hand, they want that part to touch. So that is actually somewhere on the body that when it is kissed or sucked on, creates oxytocin. It creates an amount of bonding. And so that is a place that you can, and when tickling, touching, especially with women, it's interesting because everything that really works well for a woman, if you take the exact opposite, that's what works really well for a man. So with women, if you do really light touching to their level of desire, where men are like, no, massage it, like get pressure in there. If you start tickling a man's arm, they're like, what are you doing? You're bugging me, stop touching me. So gentle with the feminine and a little bit rougher with the masculine is usually the way to go. But when you are, I want to talk about creation with this as well, because if you are someone who creates, and this could be anything from web design to physical labor. My husband for many years was a welder. That is your creation. And that's why it shows up in your hands. So when you have stiffness in your joints, this is oftentimes when you are feeling disconnected or you are feeling like you are unable to connect, that a lot of times will show up in arthritis in your joints. If you are needing to let go of things, you'll have a hard time making a fist. That is literally your soul saying, just let it go. We can't hold on tight anymore, just let it go. When you are holding too tight to a certain relationship, I like to give people the thought of trying to hold Jell-O in your hand. The more you squeeze Jell-O, the more you lose. And for many people, that's how relationships are as well. The tighter control we want on our relationships or even our creations, the more they slip through our fingers. So with your creations, this could be children. This could also be a physical work of art or something that you are making. I didn't know we'd be getting making out tips. Clearly, Kenya, you have not hung out with me enough. So the more that you work with your hands, the more you are going to see that your hands tell you so much. Your hands are all about sensation. Every single knuckle. So when you are getting, I'm going to run through these really quick. So these base knuckles are all about protection energy. So if you're having struggles with these base knuckles versus these center ones, these are about balance. And then these top knuckles, which every time I do this, people freak out. They're like, how do you do that with your fingers? Everyone can do it with their fingers. I've just learned how to isolate them. So those top knuckles up there, those are connection. And so arthritis anywhere in the body is when you are having an unwillingness to change or an unwillingness to connect, because joints take two parts of the body and connect them. But specifically in your hands, you could be feeling disconnected from your creations or disconnected from your other people. I wasn't going to talk about this because it's not intimacy related, but if you are having knee problems, knees are about your connection to authority figures. So be aware of who you have put into a position of authority over you. This could be a parent, this could be a spouse, this could be a boss, this could be God, goddess, whatever your words are. When you're having trouble with pain in your knees, you are unwilling to bend to authority. There may be a reason. Check and see who you have put into a position of authority over you, because they may not actually need to be in a position of authority over you. Squirrel. See, I told you, this is why I have a PowerPoint, so I don't do that. Okay. Lastly, okay, with your pink parts, I'm going to, when you think about the body and when you think about what the messages are coming from this, I really debated if I wanted to just kind of skim the surface or deep dive. And I'm feeling that the energy with the people who are on here and will watch this, that we can go into the deep dive. So I'm going to go here. If it is feeling like shark infested deep dive, then float back up to the surface. If you guys are like, no, I'm all in, then let's go all in. When you look at the energetic exchange during sexual intimacy, there are some very important things to kind of take into consideration. One of which is that a woman's womb is a literal portal. So naturally, without any, I always have to choose my words with this. Without any deep intention, women tend to be more connected to the divine because they have a literal portal. They have a portal and are gatekeepers to creation. Men have a key. And this is why when the key is used to bust in the gate, women feel so destroyed and why safety no longer exists. This is also one of the reasons why male, and specific male, not just masculine, but why male will crave connection. They're not craving sex, they're craving connection. Connection to divine and connection to their partner. It's sounding like Ghostbusters, I know, right? So another thing to be aware of, because healing is about learning to feel safe, not just about learning how to overcome trauma. When you live in cortisol response, meaning fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, you're constantly worried that something is going to get you. The fastest way for cortisol to be shut off is to introduce oxytocin. So many people who have a high level of sex desire, they're horny all the time, are actually having low-grade anxiety attacks. This is one of the things that feeds a porn addiction. Because when you are feeling anxiety and you're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and your brain goes, we're gonna die soon if we don't calm down, your brain knows that the fastest way to shut off cortisol is through oxytocin. It wants to go into rest and digest. So we will crave food or we will crave attention, physical attention, bonding. Because when oxytocin starts to flow, anxiety shuts down. So I hope that that is helpful for many people. And that's not to say that you don't still have an increased sex drive, but check in, especially if you're dealing with any type of sex addiction, both men and women. When you are trying to overcome anxiety, oxytocin is a really quick way to do that. So check in. Am I looking for connection? And do I have another way of establishing connection? Or do I just want quick oxytocin? The problem is usually when it is addiction-induced oxytocin, it also creates shame. And so the oxytocin kind of dwindles quickly. Other interesting fact with oxytocin. Every time a woman has an orgasm, her body releases oxytocin. Unless a man already has a desire to fall in love with his partner or have a deep connection with his partner, not all men have oxytocin with every orgasm. They always release testosterone. They don't always release oxytocin. So if a man is in a relationship that he desires a connection, he'll also release oxytocin. But this is why men can have multiple partners and not get attached to them, where women do, because we always have the bonding hormone when we have sexual experiences. And it's also why women tend to be more guarded about their sexual experiences, because if it feels unsafe to bond with that person, their brain and their body will actually lower their sex drive because they don't feel emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally safe with that person. Wow, who used to get connection? Okay, you're just taking notes. I was like, do I need to know what that is? All right, so the other part that is really important with this is that because oxytocin is the bonding hormone and it's all about connection, when we are in our body and we are connected to our sensation, we can tell if we're in anxiety versus in arousal. Arousal is an awakening of our senses, but we still feel peace. Anxiety is when our senses are on overwhelm and we're trying to find peace. So when you are able to feel into your body, am I trying to remove anxiety or am I trying to increase pleasure? That is a really big indicator, and your body will tell you, not just through physical sexual arousal, but through the sensations you feel throughout your body. So the other really cool thing that I wanted to share that's a little bit more of a deep dive is because women are a gateway and a portal, in order to gain access, men are willing to sacrifice life force. And this is why later on in life, men who have had a lifetime of feeling unappreciated, having people not be grateful for them, they feel like they give and give and give and get nothing in return, will start to no longer be willing to surrender life force, and it will cause sexual dysfunction in men. Appreciate your men. They are literally keeping you healthier. Women who are sexually active take on the DNA of men. So this is one of the things to be aware of when you have partners, and they have proven this over and over and over. The DNA of your sexual partners will stay with a woman's body for up to 5 years. 5 years. If she has a human baby growing inside her, the DNA of that human that she is growing inside her stays with her for up to 7 years. So if you have ever looked at your wife's body and been like, it does not look like it used to, she's had 2 other people's DNA in her. She's got all of your trauma, all of your epigenetics, anything that you have unhealed in you, she's absorbing. And this is a beautiful process, because when the process is done fully and completely, women detoxify from the inside out. We literally take everything that we don't want, and we can release it through menstruation. It is a gift to a partnership to have a woman who bleeds regularly, because she is able to release and detoxify all your stuff that you left in her and all of her stuff too. Honor the cycles, because it is a cleansing cycle. It is a gift and a receiving. So it creates connection. It creates connection to the divine. They actually did a lot of studies. And when they say that they did studies, I'm like, who volunteered for that? So they did a study where they tracked the electromagnetic pulses that come off of people during orgasm. Like I said, who volunteers for these studies? And one of the things that they discovered is that during orgasm, we actually have a large field of light and energy, and you can watch your crown or bliss chakra open up. And no matter what direction the head is pointed in, the energy will go up towards the heavens. In Western culture, your chakra up here is called the crown chakra, but in original Sanskrit, it's the bliss chakra, because it is the part of the body that opens up to source during pleasure, specifically during pleasure. And so as you think about this and you think about, okay, women are a portal and men have a key, and they're willing to give of their life force in order to have access, to have connection. A woman is willing to detoxify her and her partner so that they can both heal on a soul level. This is what intimacy can be about. The things that stop intimacy, when a woman feels like she's your emotional garbage can. So a lot of times I tell women, put an energetic condom on him. So put a filter there. And if he's not willing, if he's using you as an energetic garbage, you're not as made. So he gets to deal with his own emotional stuff. But when you're in a partnership, both people are willing to have that give and receive. Creation is meant to be pleasure filled. If you don't know much about anatomy, keep in mind that a woman's body has an organ, and the only purpose of that organ, the only purpose of the clit, is for pleasure. It has no other purpose. The pleasure organ for men also has waste disposal. So we are meant to have pleasure while we experience creation. This is why when people talk about manifestation, they're all about feel it in joy and feel it in all of these good things. But if you're not allowing yourself to feel pleasure physically, it's really hard to imagine and manifest pleasure emotionally or energetically. Let's see, I have an IUD. It can't be healthy because there are no monthly cycles. Find my YouTube channel, Reflections Inside and Out. I do an entire video, Haley, on there's a multiple part series on pink parts and women and pleasure, and I talk about that. But yes, it is birth control and IUDs do very much affect how accurately a woman's body can send her messages and sensations. On a little bit of a side tangent, one of the studies they did and are in the process of looking at, women actually see their partners differently when they are on birth control and what type of birth control they're on. So this is why a lot of people, when they're dating, especially Christians, the woman will not be on birth control. She'll find and pick her partner. She'll be put on birth control. It will completely change the hormone levels, which completely changes her brain, and she will actually see her partner as less desirable. So birth control can really mess with the psychology and obviously the hormones of a woman. They did brain scans on women, on 1,000 women for 2 years, every single day. And one of the things that they recognized was that depending on where a woman is in her cycle, she'll have a different brain scan. So for all of you that are married and you thought that you married a woman, you got 3 extra as a bonus, depending on where she's at that month. So a woman is 4 different brain scans, depending on the levels of hormones that she has in her system at any one time. So yes, having an IUD dramatically affects many things, but that is, I mean, I had one until I discovered what was happening. That is a very, very personal choice that you need to connect with and figure out what is going to be best for you and for your body. I love understanding awareness and creation. Yes, the gut too. Okay. I'm seeing if there are any actual questions. Okay, because I want you guys to have time to do breakouts. Oh, no, never mind. We're just going to have time to do question and answer. Wendy's sending me a message. Okay. So I know that was a ton of information. The last thing that I want to wrap up with, and then we'll open for question and answer, is when you are thinking about intimacy, lots of people have been taught that sex is sacred, but they haven't taught how to make sex a sacred practice. And this is a big part of what I am hoping people can understand, that safety is the biggest part of that. That when you create safety, that's what creates sacred sexuality and intimacy instead of just sex. So, okay. We are going, I'm trying to read all of Wendy's messages. So Wendy, what are we wanting to do right now? I want to make sure I'm honoring everybody's time. How can a man be more in touch with his emotional connection?
I really feel like people are absorbing this and engaging and like, it's like, no, we can't go to breakouts yet. So why don't you finish a lot of people want to know how to get to know you better, to get your information, because I'm going to tell you, Laurel, this is this much information tonight. You will be blown away with how much you're going to learn from Laurel. So she's going to tell you how to get in touch with her. And then what I would like for you to do right now, we are going to actually bypass breakouts. Both Brianna and myself felt very inspired that we need to keep this discussion going. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to questions. So go ahead and type your questions in the chat, and I'm going to be asking Laurel and in just a second. So I'll be looking at that. She's going to go over her offer right now and the way that you can connect and get free stuff from her.
Cool. So I put it in the chat, or if you are on a computer and you have your phone next to you, you can scan this. So there are 4 different things that you get for free on this. One is a heart, whole, and complete meditation. And the reason I start people here is because at the very beginning I said, desire is your connection to alignment. Your heart is a compass, your head is a clock. Stop asking a clock for directions and reconnect to your heart. So there's a meditation there that actually reconnects you to your heart. And someone was asking, how do I reconnect men with their emotions? Sensations that start with the heart instead of with the belly. And so that heart, whole, and complete meditation is extremely powerful. It's less than 20 minutes, but it actually helps you reconnect and regain all the pieces of your heart. There's a breath session in there, and it walks you through being safe to feel. And that sounds like such a simple statement. Oh, I already know how to feel. Yes, but not everyone feels safe to feel, to actually allow the emotional sensations to come up in your body. So when I'm talking about sadness, you can think about sadness, but what I would invite you to do is to actually feel what sadness feels like. Is it heavy? Is it cold? Is it hot? Where in your body do you feel sadness? Because when people talk about feel to heal, they're not talking about thinking about what emotion you're feeling. They're actually inviting you to tap into your body and to connect with those sensations. So that's what that breath session does. So, okay, we can do a question and answer now. That's actually my favorite part.
That's awesome. You did talk a little bit about I would like you to go a little bit deeper on how can a man be more in touch with his emotional connection? And then Steve said also, men need safety too, but it looks different from what it looks like to a woman. So can you approach both of those, please?
Yes. And I love this question. So yes, safety does look very different for men. And one of the biggest things that men need is appreciation, which is not the same thing as gratitude. Many of us have been told to be grateful, and it's kind of like and I'll take what I can get, gratitude. But men actually need to feel appreciated, because what you appreciate appreciates. Men need to know that what they did for you brought value or increased the value that you already have in your life. And the other thing, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Men need to feel respected. The problem is many people have been taught that respect is obedience. And respect and obedience are not the same thing. You can respect someone without being obedient to what they said, because you can be obedient and be highly disrespectful to someone.
Yes.
How many of you have ever had a child that was like, fine, whatever? They were obedient, but they were not actually respectful because they had no care or concern about you. So one of the biggest things that men need to feel safe, women never like when I say this, is for you to not talk. Don't interrupt men. I know don't interrupt women either, but when men are talking, men get a bad rap for always trying to fix women. But do you know why your man doesn't come to you and tell you about his day? Because as soon as he says anything about it, you go, well, I would have done it like this. He doesn't care how you would have done it. What he wants you to say is, wow, what are you going to do about that? He wants to be heard. One of the things that has helped my relationship the most, when my husband is telling me about his day, the only thing I say, two things. Wow, what are you going to do about that? And I hear you. And he shares so much with me because I hold space without trying to fix him. Neither a man or a woman wants to be fixed, mostly because we all instinctively know we're not actually broken. We are wounded, but we are not broken. So when people try to fix us, we get angry. Stop trying to fix people and help them heal. So with sensation, to go and very succinctly, one of the things that they can be, and I don't want to oversimplify this because this always feels like I'm bashing on men, but then I ask, and a lot of them actually have a problem with it. We like to label sensations into an emotion. Oh, you're feeling sad. Oh, you're feeling confused. One of the things that everyone can do is stop trying to label the emotion and just focus on the sensation. So something that I ask anywhere from my 6-year-old up to my husband, when I say, how are you feeling? I don't want him to give me a labeled emotion. I want him to describe what his body actually feels like. Talk to me how you're feeling. Do you have tension somewhere? How's your gut? How are you feeling? Don't try to get them to list and label the emotion because it doesn't really matter. Get them back into the sensations of their body. Feeling is what we want for healing, and it's not done in the head, it's done in the body. And can I go there? Nope, that might squirrel us too much. Does that help enough? And the other thing is recognize that men want connection even more than women do. Feminine energy is a we, masculine energy is a me. And if you want your husband's feminine energy to heal, he has to know that he can be a we too. When we have unhealed energy, whether it's masculine or feminine, if I have unhealed masculine energy, when healed masculine energy shows up in my world, I resent it. When I have unhealed feminine energy, when I see it in someone else, I resent it. So for most of us, when we resent our partner, it's because they're showing up in a healed energy that we're not healed in. So if your husband has unhealed feminine energy, he's going to resent when you show up in your very healed feminine. And if you don't know much about masculine and feminine energy, there's a whole chart on the free guide that I gave you guys. Go read over that. Okay.
Laurel, I was going to just say, there's a couple of things that you have taught me significantly, and my relationship has just catapulted, become so much closer. One is with this emotional, we always want to say, how can we help our husband have a better emotional connection, or my partner? It starts here, right? Like when we are emotionally connected, when we can say what we mean and mean what we say, when we can talk about the sensations in our body and express them in a kind and respectful way without accusing or deflecting what we're feeling on our partner can become more emotionally connected too, right? And you've taught me that. Saying what we mean, meaning what we say, understanding what our needs are so we can express those in a beautiful and respectful way. And as we become more and more emotionally connected, we're more connected in the bedroom, right? Because now we're not bringing all the shit in the bedroom. We're wondering why there's not intimacy there and it's just sex. We're starting to really connect in a much deeper way, right?
Yes. Yes. And it becomes soul sex instead of just physical sex.
Yeah. So, all right. Questions, you guys. What we made the decision, we really just felt like we were just gone this role. You had some questions. We didn't want to distract from what was happening. So please feel free, drop a question. There are no bad questions. If you have it, someone else does too. What else?
I'd say somebody messaged and they said, this is a lot of, I'm getting several questions that are all around the same thing. How do we turn these sensations back on? This is what I mean about you have to feel safe to feel. And this, not to oversimplify it, but start with physical sensations that are going to happen no matter what. Like when you're thirsty, do you honor that and get a drink? Or do you go, I'll have soda, or I'm going to wait, and you shut your sensations down? I grew up road tripping all the time, and you did not tell my dad you have to pee. Like my parents would rather dehydrate us than pull over and take a pit stop. So I would pride myself when I worked in the salon. I could stand for 12 hours in high heels and not eat or pee for all 12 hours. And then I would go home and be like, rah, 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 because my body was like, we think we're dying. We're hungry. And now that I'm not in the salon anymore, I still forget to eat. And people that love food are like, how can you forget to eat? Because I've shut those sensations down. So when I turn those sensations back on, the simple things were like, am I hungry? Am I tired? If you're so tired that you're smacking yourself in the face with your cell phone, don't bring it to bed. It's simple things like that that help you start to tune into sensation. What is my body's natural sensation starting to tell me? Am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I cold? Start there. Do I need to use the bathroom? If you start in those places that aren't choices, then when you are trying to make choices, the sensations make more sense. You're more used to paying attention to them. And there are other things like actually getting different textures. There are clothes you love because they're the clothes that you like the texture of. There are clothes you hate because I have a jacket that I love. It keeps me so warm, but it's so heavy, so I don't wear it. Pay attention to the sensations. Stop trying to label them and just pay attention to them. There's another question. Doctor, yes. So when we're saying and for men, sorry, you guys didn't read the comment. It's so much more than saying thank you for taking out the trash. Yes, it's actually acknowledging that your life is better because this man is in it. That's the difference with appreciation, rather than just gratitude. What would you consider as men and women age? Trying to think of 2 or 3 sentences I can give you. The biggest things to consider when men and women age is that if connection was not created outside the bedroom, it's really hard to create it inside the bedroom at any age. But as you get older, if either person or partner has felt disconnected from sensation, that is easy to reconnect to at any age. I've actually seen people who have completely healed sexual dysfunction because they've focused on connecting to their body's sensation in areas outside of sexual, and it has reconnected them to sexual sensation. And it's like what Wendy said.
I was going to say, Laurel, I mean, if anybody has the ability to say you can heal in the bedroom, way past your 50s, it's going to be myself, right? In fact, the sexual trauma was addressed, and the sensations were, I started to recognize the sensations in my body because I had disassociated for so long. So can you heal after 50? Hell yes. I'm a prime example. So, the other thing that I had someone directly message me is, how do you know when your partner is feeling intimate versus sexual after time together?
Ask them. Don't overthink that. Sometimes we want to be able to make it, I just feel them. Well, if you weren't having soul sex the first time you do, you'll be like, wow, that was really powerful. That is, and this is not what I mean by ask them. So is that good for you? That's not what I mean. The other thing that you don't ask, are you going to go? Are you getting close? Don't ask that either. If they're getting close, they'll let you know. Otherwise, keep working. Okay. Things that you ask or things that you admit. Vulnerability is so sexy. One of the things you can say is, I feel really close and connected to you right now. How are you feeling? Don't expect them to have the same connection that you had, but admit what yours was. I feel so close and so connected to you right now. But be honest. If you're like, that was amazing and I totally just effed you and I felt good about it. Admit that too, because you know what? It can be fun and it can be playful. It doesn't always have to be a lifetime made for a movie sex scene. Like, you can have these very passionate, very fun, very playful, and those can be very connective as well. But in the beginning, just ask. The other thing I remembered about age, when you are in your early years of sex, people usually have it tri-weekly, as in 3 times a week is the average. When you get into childbearing years, they encourage you to try weekly, as in try at least once a week to have sex. As you get into your older years, try weekly, as in your body is getting weak, but do your best. The other thing to really be aware of with this and with connecting to your partner and to see if it's intimacy versus just pleasure, it can be an and. There are places in your body right now that are very, very tense and tight. And there are places in your body that are really relaxed. There are places in your body right now that are cold. And there are places on your body right now that are sweating. So you can have an and. It doesn't always have to be an or. You can have a really fun, pleasure-filled, exciting experience that was very connective. You can also have an experience that only one person gets to the final orgasm and the other person is like, I really am good. Like, I feel so connected to you right now. And that's okay too. One of the biggest things you can do is to stop putting pressure on your partner to finish. That's one of the fastest ways to shut your partner down, both male or female. If they feel like they have a time frame or they need to finish quickly, then they get in their head and not in their body. I'm going to share that. Wendy's going to go ahead and mute because you'll laugh out loud on this one. So one of the things I was explaining at my event last weekend was, I was like, it's so funny because men will be like, how is it? Is it working? And they'll be like, in the groove. And you'll be like, yeah, that feels so good. I'm almost there. And they'll be like, you're almost there. Okay. And you're like, what did you just do? Don't move. I said I was almost there. Why are you all over the place now? So as weird and as silly as this sounds, I tell women, when you are giving positive feedback to your partner, tell them, if I say move to the left, don't actually move your finger to the left. Just think about moving your finger to the left and let energy do the work. If you actually move your finger to the left, you're going to miss it altogether. You're dealing with a target the size of an eraser. So don't actually move. Just think about moving. And then you'll be in the right spot. And go ahead, Wendy.
I love it. It's so true. It's like, keep doing what I just said was really good. Don't get all crazy now. So, yeah.
But that is where physiologically, the vocal cords are connected to your womb. Or not, I'm going to say it. I'm usually speaking to only women. Your vocal cords and your genitals are actually open at the same time. This is why kissing is so important, because the longer you kiss, the more you relax your jaw and the more it releases the bottom half of your body. So this is your sphincter relaxes, you literally relax your butt. And so the longer you kiss and the more relaxed your jaw is, the faster and easier it is for blood to flow down there. I had a point in telling you this.
So Laurel, oh, I'm sorry.
No, good. I can't remember what my point was. There's that information for you.
I did get a direct question to me that said,
Okay.
we'll talk a little about Tantra.
Tantra is not a little topic. Do you have a more specific question? So one of the things with Tantra, a lot of people assume that Tantra is only about orgasm, which is Karma Sutra, which is positions. But Tantra is actually sacred sexuality. It's making all pleasure practices, whether solo practices or partner practices, have a sacred purpose to them, whether that is increasing sensual energy and creation energy, whether that is connecting to your body, whether that is connecting to pleasure. Most of us like to practice manifestation, but what we also forget is to practice receiving. And the biggest part of Tantra is to learn how to receive increased levels of pleasure. So, oh, that's what I was telling you the vocal cords for. Also making sound, moaning, sexy, and helpful full arousal. It was what you meant by arousal and vocal cords opening at the same time. Thank you. I was like, I'm telling you this for a reason, and now I forgot what it was. Chakra wise, though, your throat chakra can be shut down if your sacral chakra is shut down. So if you use your voice, it actually opens up your sacral and increases pleasure and creation energy. That's what I was going to tell you. So with Tantra, one of the big things is to keep in sensations. And so one of my favorite tantric practices to do is to get a feather, like a really, really fluffy one, not one you would tie a fly with. Think like wedding pens. They're really fluffy, and touch all of your partner's body with the feather before you touch them with your skin. So first use a feather all over their body and create all of those different sensations, and then use breath. So don't kiss, just use breath and create heat or like ice. But the more sensations you can bring to the body, the more in their body they are, and the more in your body energetically they'll connect. I will say this, breath and sound are something that draw the energy from below up and out. So if you are wanting a full body orgasm, you cannot do it silently. Sound is critical for moving energy up. And so the more sound, and people always encourage women to moan because it tells their partner. Guys, it's really sexy when you moan too. Your woman wants to hear you moan. I promise. Because if you're there silently, like if she was as vocal as you are in bed, how much fun would it be for her? Open your mouth and make sound. Because sound is one of the things, the fastest way to create a vibration in a body is through sound, and your voice is what does that. So when you're trying to merge or understand vibration, sound is incredibly important for that. So if you are not good at talking, at least moan. And all the guys are like, no, just trust me. You like it, why wouldn't she? Because everyone likes to be told they're doing a good job, especially in bed. And if you're laying there silently, she's like, I got nothing. I don't know. You get what you get then. So open up your voice, because it draws all of that energy and all of that pleasure up through the body. And it actually, when you're making sound, it actually elongates how long the pleasure is sustained. So men actually have longer orgasms when they are allowing themselves to make sound. And women, it's easier for them to have multiple orgasms when they're allowed to make sound. And in fact, when women shut their throat, when they shut sound down, it usually actually tightens their butt and makes it harder for them to orgasm. So sound matters. Whistling is one of the fastest sounds to get you out of fight, flight, or freeze and into calm. So this is one of the reasons why kissing makes you pucker like a whistle, because that shape sends a signal to relax. Okay, I don't know what time we're supposed to end. I'm sorry. Are we good, Wendy?
I think it's time for us to just wrap things
Okay.
up. You have so much you're giving them as just being here, being a part of the Yin on Fire community, coming to Family Soul Evening on Monday nights. I just so am such gratitude and humility for you to be here, taking your precious time. So is there a final thought or a final thing that you want to share with them before we go? And then I'll tell you guys what we're doing next week.
The final thing would just be that if you want to heal, it's not about learning to deal with trauma. It's about learning to feel safe in love, in pleasure, and in sensation.
You guys, can you just kind of show her your love? Give her a round of applause. I'm sure that every single one of you on this beautiful workshop tonight was able to get something out of it. Some of them very tangible. Sometimes it's just an understanding. Maybe it's a different way to communicate with your loved one. Maybe it's a different way to communicate and connect to yourself. Regardless, so much value, so much goodness. You will get a replay. Plus, we'll make sure that we give you the link again in the email. So make sure that if you're not getting emails every single week, you can email us at contact@YinOnFire and say, make sure that I'm on this. Or just make sure that you check your junk or spam. Sometimes it's there until you tell it's not junk or spam, right? So I just so appreciate everything. You're going to want to listen to this probably again. I know I am. We'll put it on our YouTube channel as well. So you'll have that available, but you will get it in an email. And then you'll get her link. Thank you, Laurel, and love you. I'm going to talk to you about next week because you want to make sure that you've got next week too. We have the wonderful Dr. Shane Harada. How many of you have actually enjoyed working one-on-one with him or just listening or sitting with him, talking to him? He is an incredibly brilliant man. He is an incredibly connected. He's got all of the pieces as far. He's not just a doctor or chiropractor in terms of the physical sense. He really gets that holistic approach. My husband saw him this afternoon and he was like, oh my gosh, he completely helped, me with my neck. But it's not just, that's not the experience you get with Shane. It's just a physical experience. He gives you knowledge and tools and understanding. And he's coming next week and he is actually talking about hacking your brain space into abundance. How many of you guys would like a little more abundance and would like to biohack your brain space? How many would like that? Do you want to learn quantum physics so that you can have more abundance in your life? Make sure that you come next week because Dr. Shane is going to share his wisdom with us next week. I think that's about all, other than just share with your people that the Yin on Fire tickets are the best deal that you possibly can get right now for next year. It's September 19th through the 22nd, 2024. They're at $197 right now. They're a great, great price for what you're going to get. And next week, I'm going to be able to tell you some of our headliners, and that's going to be exciting. So with that being said, have such an incredible holiday season. Enjoy New Moon tomorrow night. And let's meet next Monday at the same time in the same place.